8 years ago, DJI released their very first consumer drone, the Phantom 1. This completely opened up a whole new playing field for the average indie filmmaker, and soon everyone was incorporating epic scenery shots to establish their vlogs and films. What used to cost tens of thousands and require a helicopter and a full crew could now be done with relative ease with a device that could be attached to a backpack and flown pretty much anywhere. Drones were an instant hit. So every year since, we've began to see newer and better versions get released. But we've all felt the same dilemma.
Honest thoughts, I'm a little tired of new drones. New drones, smaller, more drones, faster drone, FPV drone, drone.
Unlike a smartphone where we use nearly every aspect of the device every day, where it may make sense to upgrade every 1 or 2 years, drones for the most part are a specialty camera that oftentimes just sit on a shelf and collect dust. Yet every time a new product announcement happens, we all glance over to that dusty shelf and ask ourselves, should we upgrade? Hey, future me here. You're currently watching the video that I'm editing. So I just want to say that this video gets pretty windy and therefore audio gets kind of questionable because I didn't have the windscreen for my new stereo mic. But of course, as soon as I wrap all my filming on this, it finally shows up. So if you promise to hit that subscribe button right now, I promise to supply better sounding audio in future videos. Thank you. Continue watching. So I've had the first generation Mavic Pro since pretty much its release in 2016, and I've experienced everything we just talked about. I've watched every new release of whatever new drone is coming out and how it has much better resolution, dynamic range, AI features, whatever it is, but I could just never justify it because my Mavic Pro only left the shelf for very specific projects to grab 1 or 2 establishing shots. And even though we're talking about this slightly older 𝗬𝗚𝗏𝗡 that came out earlier this year or last year, DJI again has upped the game with the Mavic 3. And I hope I can check that out soon for another video, but what we're talking about today definitely applies to pretty much any drone you may be looking into buying. I just really wanted to see if having a new drone meant more than just a resolution spec bump, but actually elevated the videos and projects that I worked on while keeping the workflow efficient. It is truly not the nice summer fall anymore. We got full on gloves and it's like 25 degrees. So welcome to the Midwest. So arguably pretty much one of the biggest reasons to upgrade is the setup time. And so what I want to check out today is I have my original Mavic. This is actually an old Polar Pro case, so everyone has a little different case because they didn't really come in fancy cases back then. And I want to see how long it takes to go from literally you just arrived at your location, you have it sitting here, to first takeoff. And then I want to do the same thing with the Mavic Air 2S and see how long it takes from going from in the case to first takeoff. 3, 2, 1, go. So the actual setup time didn't seem all that different, to be honest. A lot came down to just the software of the old Mavic Pro and having to take out my phone, take it out of the case. I also hate that because then I'm always putting my phone at risk of dropping it because it's such like a weird process. So the smart controller is so much better. Had to come in the car. It's so cold and it's even starting to rain. So on top of the setup time being much faster thanks to the smart controller, the other thing is, of course, the drone is physically smaller. Now, this wasn't a huge deal to me. The original Mavic wasn't like crazy huge, especially compared to the old Phantoms, but the new smaller design definitely helps fit it into more backpacks better, and I can fit pretty much all the accessories I need with it. The batteries are decently sized smaller and they fly longer. So here we have the first generation and here the Air 2S. And you can see that's not a world of difference, but it's definitely smaller and more compact. From the singular plastic cover compared to the 2, which is still allows the gimbal to get loose and move around, to better, more efficient props, and of course more sensors littered everywhere on it. So all around, even though the design itself isn't like hugely different, I mean, the Mavic 3 is kind of the first, I'd say, real redesign in a while. The smaller form factor definitely is much appreciated. So definitely the first reason to upgrade is all around just the new design. The software is better, the physical, drone itself is smaller. The smart controller, I love the new remote controller. I know it got a lot of hate when it first came out due to software bugs, but at least in my experience, they've pretty much all been fixed. And even the new storage cases that they're coming in are like awesome. If you don't have like a drone backpack, you could totally just use whatever case it comes in. The 𝗬𝗚 has a really nice case. The Mavic 3 looks like a freaking, it is a backpack in itself. The other thing that the 𝗬𝗚 and newer drones in general have gotten a lot better at is definitely the tracking. I have less anxiety when walking around certain obstacles. It's still not perfect. I still definitely look up, and every once in a while we'll see it kind of, drift left or right and give me anxiety of like, is it gonna hit that tree? But thankfully so far, no crashes or anything. But the biggest one that shocked me for how much I actually use it, which is almost every time I fly this thing, is Master Shots. Master Shots is a new feature that allows you to pick a subject. It kind of auto looks for a person. You can just tap on that little plus button. When you hit start, it will tell you, hey, this will take 2 or 3 minutes. You can kind of choose depending how much battery life. And these Master Shots are insane because while I'm talking to the camera right now, the drone is flying itself, doing all sorts of cool tricks. And this is time that I normally would have to decide, okay, do I want to talk to camera because I have to leave in a few minutes, or do I want to get the drone shot? And now, me as one person, not having a crew or a team, I'm able to get all of that and not really have to worry too much. I mean, granted, I'm in an open area, so there's not too many obstacles around, but it's really cool that I'm getting a bunch of really nice drone shots, and I don't even know what they look like yet. All right, and finally, we have definitely probably the reason most of us want to upgrade a drone every year or every couple of years is the image quality. It can be a little hard watching YouTube videos or online videos in general because the image gets compressed, and when you compare it against other devices, it may not be a huge difference in terms of resolution and detail. But the first time that I imported footage from the 𝗬𝗚 and put it on my ultra-fine 5K monitor and I was able to see the full resolution, I was completely blown away. I mean, my original Mavic, it looked good. I mean, it's 4K 24, but in even light like this, which is just general overcast, it's 8-bit color and everything just becomes pretty mushy very quickly, especially once you start, applying a decent grade to it. And with the 𝗬𝗚, it shoots in 10-bit, which is just going to give you much more flexibility in post. And now with the Mavic 3, you can shoot ProRes RAW, which is, the price point makes sense because now it's no longer really a consumer drone. That is definitely prosumer, pretty much professional drone category. The other big thing for me is dynamic range, because so many times you're obviously filming these huge landscapes and a lot of times you have intense shadows and intense highlights from the sky, and balancing the two can be pretty difficult. So having increased and better dynamic range and highlight retention detail is just going to give you a much more pleasing image overall. The other thing that's going to help image quality is just bigger physical sensors. The 𝗬𝗚 was one of the first drones to have a 1-inch sensor, and again, now the Mavic 3 is stepping it up with a 4/3 sensor even. And so low light, these things look incredible. What used to be, let me grab this, nighttime drone shot that I'm just gonna flash for 1 second so no one notices how noisy and disgusting it looks. Now you can actually have a long, nice cityscape night shot that just looks pretty darn incredible if you ask me. So after a little over a month of use, I can safely say that my need for a new drone hasn't really changed. However, I have actually used it way more on shoots and just in personal life simply because the workflow is so much faster and better to use, and those AI features like master shots are a complete game changer. So because of those couple of reasons, for me, I can absolutely see the benefit in upgrading drones from a older generational model. But I'm very curious to hear what you guys think down in the comments below. Were any of these reasons or other ones big enough of a reason to buy something new? If you enjoyed this video, it would mean a lot to me if you got subscribed so you don't miss out on future content. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.